4th of March is an important date. No, I'm not talking about astrology and auspicious dates. But in geopolitics, it is as close as you can get to an auspicious date as possible. Why is this date important? The 4th of March is when the two sessions begins in China. The two sessions is an annual meeting held in Beijing. It's a very important one. It is when this Chinese People's Consultative Political Conference presents its views, as well as the National People's Congress also presents its views. The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference is actually a grassroots representation of China, taken from various sections and representations of the society. This conference, gathers views from the grassroots. So it is, if you will, views coming from the people as to their vision, their problems, and all these kind of things. So prior to 4th of March, there has been series of these meetings at various levels in the country. And on the 4th of March, the final report of this conference would be presented to President Xi Jinping, who is the head of the Chinese Communist Party. On the 5th of March, the National People's Congress, this is the elected branch, who themselves will now present views from their perspective of the people that they represent, from their constituencies. So if you will, this is more of a consolidated view of the constituencies representing the whole of China. Their report will be presented on the 5th of March, and it would also go to the President Xi Jinping. Now you have a whole grassroots upward report going to the top leadership as to what is working, what needs to be done, what are the pain points and things of that sort. So it now provides a sort of a checklist, if you will, to the leadership as to how to navigate the country forward. So the 4th of March is a very important date in China, because this is the date, as I told you, the two sessions meeting that gives clues as to what the Chinese government is planning or preparing to do on an annual basis. But guess what? On 4th of March in Washington, D.C., President Trump will be addressing the joint sessions of the Congress. Well, it is actually the State of the Union address, but it's not called one. But this is where Trump is going to outline his vision, his administration's vision of how they see America navigating the way forward. And of course, the U.S China rivalry is an important aspect of his administration's focus, and it would surely be part of his address on the 4th of March. So you can imagine, on the 4th of March, earlier in the day, the Chinese People's Consultative Conference has begun to present its own views. That very night in America, which will be 4th of March, President Trump will be speaking. On the 5th of March, the National People's Congress will be convening in Beijing, and this will be an occasion to take note of what is being said. So this is a remarkable turn of events, in my opinion, because China now has a position to sort of almost simultaneously take into account what is being said over there. It may or may not be presented in the discussions in the two sessions, which, as I said, will run until the 11th of March. But surely what is going to be said in Washington will not go unnoticed in Beijing. And likewise, for America too, it is an opportunity to take note of what is being expressed on the ground. So in a way, the 4th of March, if you will, is an extraordinary date where both these competitors for global supremacy will have an opportunity to listen to each other's thinking from a distance so that they can adjust themselves accordingly. Now, China naturally will have to look at expanding domestic consumption so that it will be less reliant on the U.S. markets for its exports. And of course, that will come along with a slew of other policies at home. It may encourage different types of industries to be set up. There will be incentives for investment. There will be other kinds of measures that the Chinese government is going to take. It will have an impact, an important one, for countries in Southeast Asia as well, because it will also provide them with a certain kind of idea on the way forward. Now, for America, it would also provide an opportunity to see how perhaps ways could be found to encourage this this economic collaboration. President Trump has been on record on saying that he welcomes Chinese investments in the United States. He sees a lot of room for cooperation between the United States and China in terms of business and economics is concerned. So it is positive. All these are positive signs looking forward. Another thing that I think will shape how these two events look at the world around them is a recently concluded meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky at the White House, where Trump made it abundantly clear that the U.S. is no longer interested in seeing a continuing of this war between Russia and Ukraine. So this, I think, is a significant step forward, a signal that the U.S. does not want this war anymore. And therefore, I think this changes the calculus of how U.S. will have to view its relationship with China as well. So I think all this will now have to be factored into the conversations, or rather the speeches that we are going to hear on the 4th of March, tomorrow. So I would urge all of you to look out as to the kinds of reports that are coming out, because they will have an important bearing upon the rest of the world. So the 4th of March is not just another moment in time. It is actually an extraordinary intersection of geopolitics. Well, as I said right from the beginning, these speeches that are going to be heard in Beijing and Washington may not necessarily be about long-term strategies, but it will certainly take into account each other. I think it's important to pay attention to what is going to be said tomorrow in Beijing and then in Washington, and then we should continue to listen to what is going to be said in Beijing, because the subsequent days after the 5th of March, the various ministers will present their own findings. Minister Wang Yi is expected to speak, I think, on the 7th of March, where he will lay out the foreign policy aspects of China. And this is where things like South China Sea, for example, is expected to be raised. This is, of course, an issue of importance and concern to Southeast Asia, and it is important that we also pay attention to what is going to happen this week. So, 4th of March is an important date. Watch what happens in Beijing and Washington. It could be interesting. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button and the bell icon as well, please, so that future videos will be shown to you. Thank you very much. See you soon.